Recently, your family has been impacted by this significant fire. How?
Um, the the whole town of Lahaina was evacuated, but with either no notice or little notice. So no electricity during that time. There was a hurricane. Everything, the powers were down, telephone poles were down. Nobody got the alert. The sirens didn't go off, and by the time they had to evacuate, it was already too late. Winds were 70, 80 miles, and the flames just was racing.
Wow. Now, when you are here, in Las Vegas, seeing everything unfold back in your hometown, how difficult is that for you?
At first, my family, my siblings, we have like a group message on Instagram, and my sister-in-law sent a message that day asking where my brother was, and if, basically saying, did you forget about me or something like that. And I assumed she was at work because my brother normally picks her up from work. And I didn't think anything of it at first. I just thought, oh, she's trying to get in contact with my brother. And then an hour after I checked back, no messages. So I said, did you get picked up? And so she said that no, no one's answering. Phone lines were down. She didn't know where my brother was. And then I didn't realize how bad of a situation it was until I started seeing people post things that was happening, what's going on there, and I started, questioning where my brothers were. My dad, I couldn't get in contact. I called, it would automatically go to voicemail. I tried to reach out to my cousins, any other family members that I had that are up here in the mainland as well that, are trying to reach their families, and they said they had no luck calling anybody at all, straight to voicemail.
That's incredible. Now, what have your parents and your family told you about the amount of destruction? I mean, Lahaina literally looks like a war zone now.
Mm-hmm.
So just tell me about the devastation that they are expressing to you as a result of these fires.
When I spoke with my mom at first, she mentioned that she had to evacuate. She wasn't able to go to the home after she had to leave work due to there's no power. They had to close the business, and I didn't actually speak to her till that was sometime in the afternoon Vegas time. I didn't speak to her until I'd say about midnight Vegas time, and she said that she was at the shelter, at the nearest shelter, and so she was by herself. And my mom's, she doesn't, she's, she has vision problems also, and so at night it's hard for her to drive. And so I was trying to tell her that, from what I'm seeing on the news, the fire is spreading and coming towards where the shelter is. And so she said that, she would try to move further north, kind of Napili side, away from where the fire was. And so I told her, just be careful, just try to get as far as possible away from there. And that was the last I spoke with her. And I told her to let me know when you get there, wherever you're going, kind of Pali or to the next shelter, and text me when you get there. I didn't hear anything from her.
Wow. So you still, now you've clearly been in contact
I've heard
with her.
from them, but I think it was not the next day, but the next day after that. It was kind of in a limbo where I heard from my brother, and my sister-in-law actually called me in the middle of the night. I was up. I couldn't go to sleep. I tried to go to sleep, and she called me crying and said that they made it out, that they were in Kihei, and that she was with my brother and my nephews, but she didn't know where my other brothers were, my mom, my dad. But she mentioned that my dad and my brother was able to leave with one of the vehicles, and that's the last that they heard from them or that they knew of them. They just didn't know where they were heading, if they were heading towards north side or the other side of the island. So, Lahaina, what's so hard about it is that there was only two ways to leave, and being on the island, and those roads were like on gridlock. So it was very difficult, to even get out with very little or no notice to evacuate.
And how How frustrating or nerve-wracking. I mean, I can clearly see how worrisome that is when you don't know where your family is. These flames are ravaging through the whole entire city. How stressful is that to not know where your mom, where your dad, where your brothers, your nephews are during all of this?
The next day, so I had little sleep, like I said. It was probably early morning hours Vegas time where I got the call from my sister-in-law that they were fine, that they were safe, and so I tried to take a little nap, I guess, and slept for a little bit, but then I had to wake up and got the girls ready to go to school and stuff, but still nothing. Haven't heard anything, and I actually was trying to work. I work from home, and I was trying to work and trying to do my assignments for a class that I'm taking right now, but I couldn't focus. I'm on my phone, watching my phone, watching what's happening, what people are posting back home to see what's going on. And I had to email my boss and basically just ask her or let her know that my family is going through something right now and I need to mentally check out for some time today, at least until I hear back from all of them that they're safe.
Definitely, definitely. Now, when you look at pictures, when you look at those videos of what Lahaina is now, what comes to mind for you?
So each day that I go on and see what's happening, there's always something new being posted, and because of the lack of phone service back home and people not being able to get out of the area, you're seeing new videos, new pictures, every day of what's going on or what happened during that night. And I see places that I've been, that I grew up in, my friends, my family, that was our backyard. The beach was our backyard. Front Street was our backyard. All the homes, that I spent times hanging out with our friends after school, walking to each other's homes, hanging out, birthday parties, family gatherings. It was a lot to take in.
Definitely. And what was the most recent message that you received from your family? What was the most recent update that you got from them?
As of yesterday, I was in contact with them because I had tried to coordinate with a friend of mine, or she reached out to me and asked where my family was staying. She lives on the other side of the island, and her family also had a home in Lahaina. And she reached out to me and asked where my parents, where my siblings were staying, and I let her know. She said that she had some donations coming in from the island of Kauai, and that she wanted to go, deliver the items to them. So I spoke with them yesterday. They received all the donations, and as well as I got into contact with a local restaurant in Makawao, and I had seen on their social media that they were providing hot meals to families. And so I reached out to them, messaged them, and asked them if they could do me a favor and provide a hot meal for my family last night, and they were able to deliver that to them as well.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Now, I want to be clear that I'm asking this. So it's your mom, your dad, and then the rest of your family. Explain it to me as well. Who was all in that house?
So the house has 3 units. In the back that lives there is my dad, my youngest brother, my oldest brother with his wife and my nephews. And then my sister-in-law, I believe, had her nephew staying for some time there as well, and then our family dog. And in one of the units was another family in there. I believe there was a family of 7, maybe 6 or 7 people. I don't remember the last time, if it changed, if the renters changed. And then in another addition to the house, the 3rd unit, was my mom and her husband.
Got it.
So there's 4, I would say, because then my brother's already a separate family, but all in that same house.
That makes sense. So there's
Different
about
units.
3 units in that house, but it's all under the same house,
Yes.
right? But just divided.
They're just
into 3.
attached, yeah, which is very common in Hawaii, where you add an addition or like an ohana on your property, and you have other people, renting, or you have families staying in, because those homes in Lahaina were generations and generations. So you lived in that same home. If you stayed in Lahaina, you lived on the same property, the same home that you grew up in with your kids now. those generations and generations that were lost.
Definitely. Last kind of question here for you as well. Just how impactful is this for people like yourself, for other family members who may be here in Vegas watching all of this unfold from the city?
For me, it was hard because there was a delay in getting information with phone services or phone lines down. Nobody was able to contact anyone or post anything of what was going on. And with the time zone difference also, it was even more of a delay. So it was hard watching and seeing that this information actually happened, the day before or hours and hours ago. So trying to put the pieces together the first couple days or so when I was still trying to figure out where my family is and if they're safe and okay. I was getting information from other family that was in contact with their family saying that they seen my brother walking. So one of my youngest brothers, I heard the story afterwards, was that he escaped the flames and was near death, basically. Our neighborhood had firemen in that neighborhood because there was already flames, but it was fast. And my brother tried to escape in a vehicle, but he made the decision, a very smart decision, to get out of the car and run because he had seen how bad it was. And he actually seen one of our neighbors in a car also and basically told him, "You need to get out, we need to run. The flames are coming." And that's what they did. They ran to the nearest gas station, and they said that there was a cop there, a police car that gave them a ride out a little bit further away, which was a little bit safer. And thankfully, one of our neighbors realized, who they were running away, and gave them a ride out of town. So, and that was my last brother that I had heard from. So, him and my mom and her husband and his girlfriend were the last ones that I heard from, but they were able to find each other and make it out.
Good. That's so wonderful. I'm so thankful that everybody made it out okay. Also just the devastation of how many people have died. They've reported about more than 90 people who have died already, but the death toll continues to rise. We're hearing off the record that hundreds have been found. Just to hear that from the place where you grew up, the place where you are so familiar with, how does that make you feel as well? And thankfully your family's okay, but for those who were not able to say the same, how does it make you feel?
It's very tragic and devastating, heartbreaking, because from what I've heard that day, schools were closed. And so I can only imagine how many children were home when their parents were at work and that didn't get the alert or the notice to evacuate. And there's many homes in that area also that have elderly people that might not have any family there as well that they live with. They're living by themselves. In our neighborhood, we had quite a few homes that were elderly people. And every so often they'd have their children, their grandkids come and visit, but they were home by themselves. So I'm seeing that majority of the bodies that they're going to be finding or that they've found are those types of situations. And just people that couldn't evacuate in time because everybody was stuck.
Wow. So heartbreaking. I mean, it's so difficult to even hear it, especially when you hear it from somebody who's been impacted so directly through all of this. Now, if that's okay with you, can you just possibly read a couple of the messages that your family sent to you during all of this? If that's okay, if you have maybe one that really stuck out to you, that when you read it out loud, it was a huge sigh of relief, or whichever one you think is most impactful for you.
For the most part, the updates that I got on text wasn't the big news. My family called me.
Wow.
When my brothers got out safe, my brother and my nephews got out safe, they called me because they knew I was waiting. I was waiting to hear back from them. And then as soon as soon as my youngest brother and my dad was able to get out and get in contact with my oldest brother, they called me again.
God.
As well as when my brother, my mom, her husband, my brother's girlfriend, the last ones that were able to contact me, they called me and let me know that they were all safe.
Good.
So,
And probably when you heard that, you were like, thank God. You know, you were just so thankful that they were okay, because I can't even imagine going through all of that and feeling the frustration of not understanding or knowing what's next.
mm-hmm. So the first text or the first message that I got that I was explaining earlier, where my brother's girlfriend had sent in the groups saying, hello, you know, I've been abandoned, basically saying that because my brother didn't go pick her up from work, and then asked my brother if his phone wasn't working. And so an hour later, that's when I reached out and I was like, did you find him? You know, did you guys get a power outage? And so his girlfriend, who was at work at that time in Kanapali, messaged back and said, the fire is bad. Maybe it's coming down Lahaina Luna, and I'm trying to find them. So she didn't know what was going on there because she was at work at that time. And so I said, the power's been out. And I said, I just seen a post, so I'm following along also because I'm not being able to get in contact with them. But she had some service for some time. And I said that I had just seen, you know, a video that one of my cousins posted and how close the fire was to the houses. And so my brother's girlfriend said, yes, it's been since 5 a.m. that the power was out. So the power is already out for pretty much the day, and that's why the schools were out and the businesses, or the schools were closed and the businesses were shut down that day.
And all this happened on what day exactly?
On Tuesday the 8th.
Tuesday of last week.
Yes, so it's been a week already, and it's for some people who's not, you know, who don't have contact with people there, who don't have family there, or who aren't paying attention to, you know, what's going on around the world or paying attention to news. They are only finding out about it as of, you know, this weekend or this week. But this has been going on since last week, Tuesday.
Wow. And that was when the fire was at the peak of its strength, right? I mean, last
week, Tuesday, was when they were all evacuated.
Okay.
The fires were already there as they were evacuating. And like my sister-in-law was saying, that everybody was on gridlock. So
now, when you say gridlock, does that mean that they were closing? You said there's 2 entry points into Lahaina, right?
One going north and one going towards, you know, the south side of Maui or central part of Maui, which is towards the airport. Wow. So the way our town is this is the town of Lahaina, and this is where the airport is, and you're going in this way or you're going out this way. The only thing with that is this is the main way everybody takes, and the around the back, which we call is the head, because when you look at our island Maui, it looks like a person. And so this is the head part of the island, and so we call it going around the head. That takes a lot more time, and it's actually not really designed for that much traffic, and it's very windy. So it takes a lot longer to get through the other side.
Wow. Okay.
Which is where they were all trying to go, is away from the fire.
And that's where you said the gridlock was, which
is in Lahaina.
Got it.
Is in Lahaina, where the fire was occurring, and then so they had to be evacuated, and so people went right, people went left, and that was the hard part, was when there was no phone service, you know, power lines are down, you can't communicate with your family, and so my family didn't know if they went this way or they went this way. And after that, just power was out for days and days. I think they've slowly, in some areas, luckily, they've been able to get internet connection by Starlink in certain spots of town so that they can actually communicate. Even though it's not a lot, it's something where people can go and use that free internet and make contact with people that they need to. Family who's still missing people, still worried where they are.
Now, you said the evacuation and the alert system, the response was not quick enough. You said people were not finding out that this fire was so near till it was actually, literally, they were seeing it for themselves. Is that a problem that you guys have faced that this evacuation system or this alert system is not as effective or quick as it should have been for this situation.
So for me, I mean, I haven't lived there in a while, but growing up there, and from what people have been saying, is that they do the siren test every month. Every month they make sure that it's working properly, which is the evacuation, the alert if you don't get the text.
Or anything,
so yes,
right?
so they test it every single month to make sure it's working properly as it should, to let the people know if for that case, we had to evacuate. And as far as the fires were going on, I believe the locals had heard that it was contained, but with Hurricane Dora, the winds were blowing, and from what they could do as far as containing the fire, it wasn't enough because it spread.
Wow. So I think it was too fast. By the time that they found out, the system, you said the power was out, everything was, they couldn't do much.
And part of that also, with the power being out, Hurricane Dora, telephone poles were down, and people were saying that there was fire in different parts of town, and so that made it even more difficult for the fires to be put out, because there's a big fire on this side, and then there's fires coming up here throughout the town as well. And since it's a small town, there's very limited resources as far as firemen, fire stations, police officers. We would have to get more help from the other side of the island, which takes some time.
Incredible. Now, last thing I'm going to ask from you here, Trisha, is can you just show me that picture one more time of what's left of your house? And then if you can send that to us as well, that would be excellent. If you just want to send it through our Facebook message there as well, that would be great. And any other videos or photos that you have from your family, if you can just send us as much as you have, that would be great. But thank you so, so much for sharing this with us and talking about this devastation, because it's been extremely impactful. Extremely impactful. So what we're looking at right here is actually where you lived for about, you said 25 years.
Well, the house that my family has had it for 25 years. So I moved away for college, and I've been living here. But they've remained in that same house, whether it was the main house or moved to the addition after they built the rental units in there. We've been on that same property since I was 9 years old.
Wow. So from 9 until what age did you leave here?
Well, when I left Maui, it was for college, so it was after 12th grade. And I have lived away from home majority of the time. I did move back home for a little bit after college when I had my daughter, and I raised her there for a couple of years before I moved here to Vegas in 2015, and I've been here since then.
So we can easily say you've lived there for about 15 years of your life?
Since I was 5.
So 5.
Yeah,
so you from 5 till you said
about like 18, 19. Yes, when I moved away for college.
Wow. And then you went back for about a couple more years.
A couple years,
with
yes.
Your family.
With my daughter.
Got it.
My daughter. After college, I moved there for a couple years before moving here to Vegas.
Wow. Okay. And now what we're looking at here, that's one of your guys' vehicles, clearly, right?
That's the rental. So the rental property, that's their vehicle. My family drove. My mom was gone and her husband, so the vehicles were with them at work. My oldest brother, they left with their vehicle. My dad took my brother's girlfriend's truck with him and my youngest brother, and my other younger brother, the one that escaped running, was actually in our neighborhood, and he had to just move the truck over to the side. When he made that decision that he needed to run, he moved the truck over to the side because he didn't want to block the other people who were trying to escape. So he moved it over to the side. That was lost. It was burnt along with the whole neighborhood. But he was able to escape running with one of our neighbors.
Now, when you take a look at what is left of your childhood home, what comes to mind for you?
Coming from Philippines, my parents, especially my mom, had a lot of sentimental things that she's brought, like pictures of us when we were little, growing up in Philippines with her family, our parents, my grandparents. And so I can see a lot of that just not being, replaceable.
a lot of things that I've sent her as far as pictures and little drawings from my daughter. Those kind of things is all gone.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And thank goodness that your family's okay, and thank goodness that you're okay too.